Joining me now, two familiar faces here. The strategist, Steve McMahon. He's a Democratic strategist who worked on Howard Dean's campaign. And Todd Harris is a Republican strategist and former spokesman for John McCain. We can only get people here whose campaigns didn't make it, right? Is that the deal?
It's a lot of form.
You learn more. You learn more from campaigns.
Well, we do get independents right now. Well, look at the latest. I want you guys to take a look at the latest news here. Newsweek poll, just out this weekend, this coming weekend. In fact, it's got Obama 52-41 over McCain. What a spread, 11 points. That's usually enough to guarantee victory here, but anything can happen. By the way, the last Newsweek poll conducted 1 month ago had them tied at 46, so that's a big boost, obviously courtesy of economic conditions. Before they released the Newsweek poll, pollster.com, which, by the way, has all the polls averaged up, you can look it up on your online, is up by 7.5, so it's fairly consistent. These numbers are getting up to right around the double-digit level. Steve, this is about what? Is it about a combination of the economy and his performance in the debates, or just the economy?
It's the economy, it's his performance in the debates, and it's the fact that his party and his president has led this economy in this country for the last 8 years, and John McCain has gone right along with every single policy. 53% of Americans believe that if McCain is elected president, he'll continue the Bush policies, but 80% of America wants a new direction. So that's what he's running up against. It's a very, very difficult climb for him right now.
Is this a question of the ends being punished?
Well, a lot of people think the ends should be punished, and what's upsetting a lot of Republicans is that they're pointing at Nancy Pelosi and they're pointing at Harry Reid and saying, well, those are the ends too. And these are the people who were in charge of Congress during all of this meltdown, and so it's frustrating.
No, just actually the last 2 years.
Well, that's when we've had the meltdown.
When the Republicans filibuster just about every single thing the Democrats tried to do. I mean, listen, you can look at the polling data and you can see that no one's blaming Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats.
No, that's
Everyone's saying give Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats a veto-proof majority.
You may be right in terms of Democrats required. They should share the blame for some of this because they do have a lot of oversight responsibility over the years, over the regulatory agencies, and they've been very close to Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. There's no doubt about it. But for whatever reason, the candidate for president... Yeah. For president and vice president, have decided they don't want to talk about the economy. Right. They have another issue. Here it is. Here are excerpts from this week from McCain-Palin rallies this week.
I'm afraid this is someone who sees America as imperfect enough to work with a former domestic terrorist who had targeted his own country.
On November 4th, let's leave Barack Hussein Obama wondering what happened.
I'm here. I'm reading it. And what's going to surprise you is not the economy. It's the socialists taking over our country. I think it's so important in today's country what we're really missing and what's going on. When you have Obama, Pelosi, and the rest of the hooligans up there going to run this country, we got to have our head examined.
Well, clearly the people are stirred to action. And one of the reasons I believe they're stirred, correct me on this, is that the Republican candidates for president and vice president are stirring them to action by saying things about the man's association with terrorists, by stirring up questions about where he's getting his money, suggesting, well, saying so, it's coming from Palestinian sources. I think the Republican Party is building the case that Barack Obama is practically a member of a sleeper cell, that he somehow associates with terrorists, he somehow benefits from them politically and financially. And by the way, his name is Hussein. Don't forget it. Why does your party continue to remind people of his middle name? This hasn't been mentioned. It's something he got at birth. It's been considered inconsequential since the beginning of his political career because everybody knows you get a middle name, whether it's Sidney in the case of John McCain, or it's Hussein. Neither had anything to do with naming themselves. Why is it an issue?
Well, it's not an issue, and every single time...
Why are these jabberwalls out there raising that issue now?
And they're all told not to, and every time someone does, the McCain campaign immediately sends out a statement condemning it.
Unless it's the McCain campaign doing it. Unless it's...
No. Look, there was 5-6 months ago, there was a talk radio host who kept using his middle name, and John McCain publicly repudiated the guy.
That's
absolutely...
saying that he associates with terrorists. She's out there saying it right now. So, you can say, well, if somebody does the introduction, John McCain will say, don't do that anymore. But Sarah Palin's down in Florida saying he
people are yelling traitor out of him.
7 years old.
Traitor. These words are getting pretty loud. And that guy, hooligans, traitors. Well, you don't think this is getting a little hot?
Well, look, I've been, in 2004, I went to some Democratic rallies, and let me tell you, the things that Democratic activists were saying about George W. Bush
were just
as
there's
bad.
An asymmetry here. Has the Republican Party ever been victimized as being called un-American, by your patriotism being challenged? It seems to be a unique charge of the Republicans against Democrats. Michael Dukakis, he wouldn't salute the flag. He wouldn't do the Pledge of Allegiance. He was somehow un-American. He was a card-carrying member. There's a great phrase of the American Civil Liberties Union. There's something furtive about this guy, something un-American, right?
Look,
then somehow John Kerry, whatever else you think of him, was somehow French. This whole thing they were pushing, your party. What is this? It's like, I said this last night, it's like a reverse Ellis Island. You come to this country 3 or 4 generations ago, you become an American, and then the Republican Party has this little program they carry out that de-Americanizes you. What's this about?
Well,
is this the last refuge of a scoundrel? No, is it?
No, look, I think a lot...
You think it's not rotten?
I don't think it's going to work. I will say this. I think in this economic environment, I mean, the truth is most working class voters right now think that the Weather Underground was a band from the 60s with Lou Reed in it. Yeah. And so, in this kind of environment...
If you call them terrorists and spruce them up and make it sound like it's last week, and he was loading the grenades for the guy, when in fact he was on a school board with him 30 years later.
I think Senator McCain needs to be out talking about his economic message for the country. If they want... the cultural war message, which is really what this is. Let Sarah Palin go work the base, but Senator McCain, and frankly, I think that these associations are fair game.
They're not listening to you.
But hold on. But they're not going to win on that alone.
This isn't the cultural war. What they're trying to do, and I hate to say this, and I never thought John McCain would do it, what they're trying to do now in this campaign is they're trying to make Barack Obama the risky, scary African-American guy. That's what they're trying to do.
Making him foreign.
And they're trying to make him foreign, and they're trying to make him culturally unacceptable. They do the cultural wars, but typically they do it by saying what a liberal someone is. They don't do it by saying that he's hanging out with terrorists, question of patriotism. They don't do it by equating his name with the name of a well-known terrorist. And they certainly don't do it by doing things around where you go to church and who your pastor is, which I expect will come next. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to make him risky and scary, and I think it's going to be interesting to see.
Well, I agree that they're painting him as risky and they're painting him as scary because the fact is he has no record and he's very inexperienced. I don't agree.
That's not a bad argument. That's not a bad argument. What you just said is a great argument. Go after him on his immaturity. Go after him. He hasn't been around long enough. But I'm afraid there's some people out there who are a little close to the instability level. Let's put it lightly, because now they're not listening to me. I'm not going to use the magic words, but we know what we're talking about, who might be near the edge. And this kind of lingo out there gets into the blood system. It gets scary. Thank you, Steve McMahon. Thank you, Todd Harris, for playing defense here.